What's going on, fishy friends? Rich here, Rich's Fishes, and today it's Tuesday. Fishy, fishy, fishy. Alright, so maybe a little bit better than Monday, but Tuesdays still suck. I wish it was Friday. So what's up in the fish room? That's what everybody wants to know, I'm sure. Here is the 29-gallon juvenile discus tank. Not 24 hours ago, I spent a little time cleaning, maintaining, doing water changes. And from the looks of things, these guys have been busy eating. It almost looks like I haven't cleaned this tank in a week. So it's definitely time for me to get on my high horse, get off my high horse, get on my high horse. I don't even own a horse. But it's time for me to do something with that theoretical horse and move these fish into a new tank. Not going to do it tonight. I am going to do a water change on this tank tonight. Let's see, after I stopped filming last night, I did a water change up here. And I cleaned one of the two sponge filters and realized that was something that might be interesting to do on camera. So maybe what I'll try to do today on camera is do a water change up here in this tank and maybe clean that sponge filter and show you guys what I do. Let's see, somebody in Monday's video had asked about my 20 long, what used to be my beautiful 20 long planted tank. Here it is. There's a bunch of hygrophila that's grown up and out of the tank, reaching and stretching towards my Finex Planted Plus light. Some of the plants have flowered once they're terrestrial. I got a big mess down here of leaves and flowers and stuff that have fallen off the plants. And this tank is a mess. I've completely neglected it for months on end now. I apologize to whoever it was that left that comment. I don't remember specifically who it was. But the person asked if I had plans to not regenerate this tank, if I was gonna fix this mess. And yes, I am gonna fix this mess sooner or later. But as I've been talking about recently, I am mentally preparing for my fish room renovation, and I don't want to take on too much more responsibility down here until I get a chance to get all that going. Part of my renovation is to automate some things, and right now I barely have enough time as it is to take care of the fish room in its current state. I definitely don't want to start adding on responsibility right now, that's for damn sure. And that's part of the reason why I don't want to move around those discus yet into a bigger tank. That's part of the reason why I haven't touched this disgusting angelfish tank over here. Maybe I'll get some Ottos or or a Pleco or something and see if they can't clean this thing up, but I'll probably just scrub it one day. But there's that big lonely angel in there. Now I am leaving this fish by itself in this tank. Man, I'm just realizing I think that hang-on back filter has been off for far too long. That's probably killed all the bacteria in there. Damn it. That's part of what I was trying to talk about. The reason why I'm leaving this fish in here instead of moving it over to here is because I didn't want the cycle to crash. I wanted this tank to remain cycled, so whenever I do get some new fish, I could drop them in and be good to go. And if you don't have a fish in a tank, you got to do some work to make sure that that beneficial bacteria doesn't die. Beneficial bacteria needs to, I'm gonna put it in quotes here. Beneficial bacteria needs to eat, for lack of a better term. The bacteria, just like fish, just like anything else, need a power source, I guess we're gonna call it, an energy source. And the beneficial bacteria consume ammonia. Nitrosomal bacteria consumes ammonia, I believe, and there's a different set of beneficial bacteria that consumes the byproduct that comes from the consumption of ammonia. One set of beneficial bacteria starts eating ammonia, one set of beneficial bacteria starts consuming that ammonia and creates nitrite. A different set of bacteria needs to form and eats nitrite, creating nitrate, and then water changes and/or plants remove nitrate in your fish tank. So, very important to make sure that that beneficial bacteria stays present in the tank. It grows on all the surfaces, it grows on all the filter media, it grows on the substrate, it grows on the glass, it grows on sponge filters, it grows on the media inside of hang-on back filters. It grows anywhere and everywhere it can. And they're bacteria, so they're super tiny, so they take advantage of all those little tiny crevices and cracks and nooks and crannies and pumice stone and lava rock and or any branded biomedia, which is essentially lava rock and pumice stone or pieces of plastic. And it colonizes there and it lives there, and it is a huge benefit to your aquarium. Whether or not you know it, your aquarium would not survive without it. I still think the purpose of a filter on a fish tank is not necessarily to filter the water so much as it is a place to allow that beneficial bacteria to thrive and colonize and grow and live and take care of your fish waste, basically. I don't remember why I started talking about that. Yes, I do. So why I don't want to empty out this tank yet and pull the fish? Because the beneficial bacteria needs to stay alive in this tank. And in this tank. Well, and for that matter, it needs to stay alive in that tank, and in that tank, and that tank, and that tank, and that tank, and that tank. Maybe not this tank since it's empty. And this tank, and this tank, and this tank, and that 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 tank, and this tank, and yeah, again, not that one because it's empty. And that tank, and that tank, and that tank, and that tank. Because beneficial bacteria is 100% essential. There are not too many things I would say are an absolute requirement in this hobby. I wouldn't even say a fish tank is a requirement. You can keep fish in a plastic box. This thing right here, blammo, instant fish tank. Just fill with water and add fish. And if you happen to have beneficial bacteria growing in some other source, add that, and you've got an instantly cycled fish tank. Just wouldn't call it a fish tank while it's empty at the store. But removing that angelfish out of that tank and moving him over is going to leave me with an empty tank. And there will be no fish waste. So there will be no food source for the beneficial bacteria to continue living, and that will eventually die. Just like whatever beneficial bacteria was colonized over here in that hang-on back filter that I unplugged when I last did maintenance on this tank and forgot to plug back in. That's my quick Tuesday tip. These things work much better when they're plugged into one of them over there. And somehow it doesn't work when this thing just dangles. The angle of the dangle. So, in order to keep the beneficial bacteria alive, if I were to remove this fish, I either need to keep feeding fish food into this tank to create waste and ammonia, or I need to literally dose ammonia into the tank. Which I have done. I've dosed ammonia to do a fishless cycle, wherein you are seeding the biomedia and allowing that bacteria to grow and colonize before you ever add fish. And that way your fish don't get shocked and have to deal with ammonia poisoning. And the tank is cycled. That's called a fishless cycle. When you dose it with ammonia at a particular dosage in order to reach a particular level of ammonia and continue to do so until you reach a particular level of nitrite and then eventually nitrate, so on and so forth. Add fish, sit back, relax, enjoy, and that's that. Boy, I am rambling on today. I am pacing back and forth. We got to do maintenance. I don't have time to do anything right now, I don't think. Maybe I can start a water change quick. Maybe I'll scrub some tanks. Maybe I'll probably just top off this tank. What's going on over here? This is my rummy-nosed Tetra. I don't often get to take a good look at them because they're just so difficult to film in this tank because I don't have any room to stand back here. It's weird. These rummy-nose almost seem like they've split into two schools. There's about 13 fish in total. I only see about 12, I think, right now. They're so difficult to count. But it's a shame. This tank is just so difficult to film. And I still think rummy-nose are the tightest schooling fish you can get in a community aquarium. Many, many different types of tetras will school for sure. But for some reason the rummy-nose tend to stick together much tighter than, say, neon tetras, cardinal tetras, black skirt tetras, white skirt tetras, or insert any tetra name here. This is how much evaporation has happened. My spray bar is now up and out of the water, and my hand over here, as I'm holding the camera just off frame to the right, is getting wet from the splash. Here is the problem I didn't have to fix last week that I guess I do have to fix now. You can see the disco show with the white lights flashing. I don't know if you can tell in the reflection that it's just the whites that are flashing. And like I said the other day, I thought I had fixed the problem by doing nothing except leaving the light off for a couple of days. But apparently it's still broken. This is a pretty common issue on these current USA satellites. And it sucks to think that I might just have to go toss this. We'll see. I'll see if I can't open it up and fix it and see what's up. Here's Gilly. One gill still pumping away. Alright, I'll set up the tripod and start doing water changes, guys. Alrighty, here we go. Alright, so what I do is I start with a basic water change. Now this is the sponge filter over here that I did clean yesterday. And this one over here is the one I'm going to clean today as I push a fish out of my way. Excuse me, Mr. Fish. So we start with a basic water change. And as we can see over here on camera 2, I'm using the Python, well, the generic Python adapter, sink adapter. Nothing fancy about that. There's a link down below in my Amazon affiliate links if you'd like to buy one of those waterbed fillers, which is, for all intents and purposes, the same exact thing as the Python brand aquarium cleaner kit. And all it is a Venturi pump that attaches to the sink that allows you to use your household water pressure to act as a siphon and suck everything out of the tank. Blub, 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 blub. Over here. Into that. So once I get the flow of aquarium water going, actually I'm going to be all tangled up here. Let me try something real quick. Pull that out under the cord, back in, get the flow going once again. You can almost hear it. The sound in the Python changes a little bit when it's sucking air and it's not sucking water. There we go, now it's back to water. Now what I'm going to do is turn the water off. So now, what we're doing here is now we're still draining out of this tank solely on gravity. So there is still water flowing here out of the sink that is not chlorinated tap water. The tap is off. This is just aquarium water. This is the most important part of this. You do not want to use chlorinated tap water to clean your sponge filters. The chlorine may very well likely kill all the beneficial bacteria in your filter. You do want to use aquarium water only. So instead of filling a bucket and scrubbing it out in a bucket, what I do is I rinse it under the tap here when it's just aquarium water coming out of the tap. So we gotta get the lids out of the way, which I'm having trouble with. Out of my way. And then what I do is I simply grab the filter in a bucket and that's it. Now I know what you're saying, Rich, I've seen other people spend 20 minutes using bags and stuff to bag up the filter. My answer to that is, why would you do that? You're already cleaning the tank and you've already got a siphon and a suction going. I just pulled that sponge filter out and I don't think I disturbed any of the detritus or the dirt and kicked it up into the tank. I put it in a bucket. I carry that bucket to the sink. I take off the intake tube. I'll rinse the intake tube with aquarium water. Typically I'll have towels laid out somewhere. I don't have that right now. And then what we do is we take the sponge and we get that flow of water going right down through the hole. This is actually rinsing out pretty clean right now. Once I start banging it out and squeezing it, you can see the dirt and the detritus and all that fish waste coming out of the sponge filter. And that brown, dirty water running down the bottom of the sink. Now that's what we want to get out of the fish tank, obviously. We've talked about this plenty of times, about the beneficial bacteria that grows on the various nooks and crannies and pores and surface area on any filter, be it a sponge filter, be it ceramic filter rings, be it K1 coldness, be it a canister filter, a hang-on back filter, a homemade canister filter, a sump of some sort, a sponge filter, or whatever the hell you want to call any kind of filter. One of the biggest purposes is to allow that beneficial bacteria to grow and colonize. And like I said, using chlorinated tap water can kill all that bacteria that is formed in all the tiny little pores of these sponges. But since we don't have the tap on, all we have is aquarium water draining out of the tank, going through the hose. And luckily, this particular tank of mine is higher in the fish room than the sink is. Now, for the tanks that I have down low, I do have to use a bucket and squeeze and rinse and clean my sponge filters that way, because you can't get gravity to drain a tank that's lower than where the output of the hose is going. Then I start putting the filter back together. And all that while, the tank has continued to drain and my water change has been completing itself. Leave the intake tube off. Slide the airline tube through it first. Connect it back together. Insert the intake tube. Back into the tank it goes. And now I can turn the tap back on and pick up any other detritus or debris that I might have kicked around when handling that sponge. Now, this might not be the best example right now because of how much algae is on the bottom of this tank, but there's not that much mulm and detritus and material and dirty stuff getting kicked up by the sponge when I picked it up and moved it. Now, in theory, you can kick up a heck of a lot of detritus and stuff. You don't want to squeeze that sponge filter in the tank that you're cleaning because that's going to kick out a lot of stuff. But if you do it quick and careful and just drop it into that bucket like I showed, it doesn't have to be a bucket, it could be a bag, it could be a box, it could be any device that you choose. And usually that works pretty well, at least in my case. Then we'll go ahead, make sure I am accurately reaching the desired temperature for my water change. I do this very scientifically. I usually aim the handles to roughly the same spot, and I just feel the water to make sure it's roughly okay. And away we go. Yeah, a few minutes. Don't forget your dechlor if you're using tap water like me, especially if you're not aging that tap water, which, as I've said, I think is a big mistake on my part. And hopefully I can get around to fixing that sooner or later. The washing machine on which my camera is standing hopefully can get out of this room and out of my way. Now we'll speed things up a bit as the tank fills. All right, that one's all done. You might have seen I threw a little bit of food in there while the water was filling back up. I'm gonna go ahead and do another water change quickly on one more tank. This is the tank that I did that water change on yesterday. And less than 24 hours later, we're ready for another one. That's for damn sure. I'll speed things back up again because this has got to be boring. Don't forget the dechlor. All right, we're done. Comment, rate, subscribe. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys next time.